Oh, some of it's going to be reviewed. 2728 legislative agenda development process. Where we're at in the process. Of course, this is the first year of the biennium, so it's a new agenda. It's a 2-year agenda, with a bunch of old things incorporated in it. Goal, of course, was to create a set of policy proposals we'd like to see addressed or passed into law during the next session. LSC provides that place to focus advocacy resources, and we try to be proactive, but not always. Keep in mind, there are whatever, a couple hundred legislators that come up with all of these things along the way that sometimes we have to respond to. They kind of delineated some of their goals, evolved goals from LSC based on how things went with King County and without King County, frankly. So some of their goals: balance priorities that are important to larger and smaller members, achieve a greater balance in Wasac's advocacy strategy during the legislative session, and enhance participation for larger members while maintaining value for all members. There's a couple of pieces there, and I think it's of significance. The urban counties are in the minority in that there are way more rural counties, and so to carry something in Wasac did require weighted voting. And of course, we did that just for urban priority legislation. But also, they're a little less likely to speak up in open forum because we all speak like Commissioner Smiley. Yeah, or worse, like Commissioner Gentle. And so they can take a beating if they get it wrong, to be somebody from an urban county which says, yeah, well, I think this, and boy, we know shortage of people telling them why they're wrong and they can stuff it, right? So just really trying to create a place where there's value for all of the counties, and I'm not even gonna roll my eyes when I say it, because Wasac, that is the function of Wasac, and the legislative steering committee is largely working for counties. I don't care what color, what anything. Counties have very specific needs, and that's what we're looking to zoom in on, and we're not always going to agree on those, and where we disagree a little too much, we're just not going to take on those advocacy efforts. But there are a lot of places we can agree, and you'll see all the usual suspects here. Really try to limit it to 6 priorities or fewer, and try to strike a balance between urban and rural county priorities. Here's the piece I'd like to, and I don't know we have a discussion today, but at some point. So the LFC is really limited to county government operations, services, cost, revenues, legislative, executive authority. And so in our development criteria, it must benefit multiple counties. It may not directly harm any counties. Directly and harm are both doing some heavy lifting in that sentence. But I want to speak to the first one. LSC only weighs in on those things. And so if somebody wants to talk about gun control, or if somebody wants to talk, anything that's outside of county government, we don't have that conversation. I don't know if what we are, if we are of a mind here, does that belong with the parties? Is it something that we can or should do after hours? I really do try to work with Kelly and Jessica and the PUD and the hospital and try to push these where they belong, including just the SMEs on crypto or on power or on timber or whatever, right? I'll call Smiley, you got one coming up, go testify, right? Really try to highlight those, but it's largely centered around government functions. Right. And so I don't know I don't know. Well, let's just say this, if you feel over, the next several months, or you can say definitively that the people are leaning on county commissioners to advance other legislative agendas, that, hey, Brian, why aren't you signing up for those gun control bills? Then pass that along to me. I, it gets a little bigger every year, and I try to do a little more every year. I do imagine at some point, I'm just gonna have a full phone tree for different types of expertise and say, hey, I need you guys to all weigh in on this. Because Monterey County's on the map. I mean, we're showing up more and more every year, and I'd like to keep that momentum going. Just the same, there's 1,800 plus bills for me to wrestle with, right, just in government. And so, that doesn't mean that simply can't be an excuse to not advance the rest of it. And so maybe just more work on my part.
At some point, it becomes an issue of priorities.
Yeah, no question, no question. But I don't want that to be an excuse, because I know I can do,
Right.
with the right people anyway, I know I could do more. The legislative development, the legislative advocacy development process is 29 steps. We're about halfway through. It's pretty complicated. Most of them, The notice of process and submittals opened April 6th. Proposals closed April 17th. The retreat was May 14 and 15 in Walla Walla. And that uh, uh, brings us to now. Basically, we have consolidated the legislative proposals. We talked about those, just brushed over them when I got the notes back from the Walla Walla session. So not going in much more depth, but I wanted to very clearly line them out here. First priority is county revenue. Of that, we have three sub priorities: secure the local government assistance account promised by the legislature. This was in response to the millionaire bill and the tax, prescriptions were included. So was diapers, prescriptions, a handful of other things, but prescription drugs, there's some sales tax there. And so counties were kind of that, right? They had actually given us an indicator that they wanted to solve it in the millionaire's tax legislation, and it just never happened. So we're gonna pursue that. I don't know what that amounts to for Ponderay County, but there's a number there. And, so looking to get those dollars back. Number two, sub-priority two, solution for the motor vehicle fuel tax distribution area. Had a lot of conversations about that. Number three, education and communication strategy regarding county funding, structural failures, and new revenue needs. So switching tactics there are so many revenue needs, and there is this education component. We are finding when we go and talk to legislators, they're surprised. Like Jamie Peterson was surprised at the table. Oh, I didn't know you were short on funds. Or how, or why, or whatever else. So saying they're surprised. So some are, some aren't. There is an education element in this, and a lot of that is gathering data. So we're gonna have a story to tell for counties this legislative session, and that's useful for us as well. With the roads conversations, right? I mean, there's just to be able to say, listen, did you know? And the answer is largely no, they didn't. Second, legislative agenda priority, public defense. We've been combining our funding proposal with our policy proposal. We're gonna bifurcate those. We're gonna have a bill for funding. Get us, or appropriations or whatever else, get us dollars for public defense. But there were policy fixes that could really ease the burden as well. And we've had those together, and so if one dies, they all die. We're gonna separate those and see if we can get one or the other or both. Third is liability reform. We've had conversations about that. The members are to develop the strategies there. We don't have a lot. If you remember, Senator Dingra had just sort of the sweeping tort reform bill last year. There's some palette for that. So we're gonna have that conversation as a WASAC priority for the first time. We feel like timing is everything, and the timing's right on that. Fourth one is jail modernization, looking for $100 million jail improvement grant fund, and then the second sub priority there is a liability shield for jail medical service providers, which we've talked about counties being sued. When we try to send in Newport Hospital Health Services just to give somebody their crazy pill, there's some risk there and liability, and even worse, well, not even worse, the liability is on us if they don't go in there and somebody dies or gets hurt or hurts someone else. Fifth priority is housing. This is a short-term rental housing excise tax, maybe a particular note for you, Smiley, because we know, of course, now that a large percentage of our revenue comes from short-term rentals, but they're talking about it. The conversation in and around this is to expand the allowable uses for this tax. So it isn't strictly what you would consider to be a hotel motel tax corridor right now. Some of that to include, certainly infrastructure, water and sewage, but foundational public health services. Whatever that means in this regard, but kind of, and then, sort of, overlapping needs, which would be creating more housing, childcare. Yeah, I mean, like other things that you could rope into that. And so we just wanted to be an active part of that conversation. Hey, if we're gonna say what counties can use those for, we need to have a voice in it. And it could be, there's not enough money already,
Right.
There are some years we have maybe more requests than
I
dollars.
suspect in some places it's a lot.
Yeah, no question. And then the sixth would be renewable energy, modify the current sales tax exemption to allow local governments to retain sales taxes paid by clean energy projects. And it's basically make it more attractive to counties so that, so that people have interest in doing these. This one surprised me, compared to the nation and even compared to the rest of the West. Washington State is actually pretty far down the list of states that have executed clean energy programs. And that surprised me until, of course, we've got hydropower. And so the need for it wasn't, quite as acute as in other places. It seems like it's been a priority in this state for a while.
The further you go east, the more you have open space.
Yeah.
And the less valuable the land is.
And you don't have sun. I'm in Washington, doesn't have, there are a lot of things there. No, you're spot on, Brian, and we don't have, if you had coal, you've been looking for 15 years already, so, there are places where it's a much bigger problem. I don't know. So what happens now, this is where we're at in the process, we're gonna refine the proposals, we always allow for urgent and emergent issue proposals to be considered. We'll adopt the refined proposals in September. LSC nails those down. And then the final version is adopted at the county leaders conference, of course, where everybody's there. And then you guys get to vote on ratifying what the LSC set up. So that's the whole process. And so we're about halfway through. And that's it. Great report. Does anyone here remember, on us, Brenda, when we get there, have we used, so we used a firm, we used Profin,
Right.
Wes McCart is absolutely against, but we used Profin to get our public works director. Have we used anything like that to try to find a prosecuting attorney? Have we hired a firm?
I don't believe she has. She just did counseling and your public works.
Right.
I
Okay.
asked her about it.
Advance there. Did she go around? I waved her in.
Oh, yeah.
Did respond to Congress.
Good.
That must be using some traffic.
Oh, okay.
Good. We'll figure it out. Just thank you very much.
I have some.
Oh, they came off of my,
Okay.
came off of my report.
I'd like to recycle these back here.
Oh, good. I will take them. And then there's one of these.
Okay, not in the packet though, right? Not in this.
Not in that,
Okay.
yeah. These are like
They're
substandard, man.
They're slippery is what the thing is.
Not quality. I apologize for my low quality binding, apparently.
Well, you know what I do, I just take it apart.
It's like, as soon as I get.
Stays open where I put it.
And you got one?
I've got one for everyone.
Okay. How are you? Yeah, I get 2 hours in. Okay.
Pardon our tardiness.
Right on time.
This is also part of it, right?
Okay.
If you have several people joining via Zoom.
You don't? Crystal, if I could, get online, that would be, share, I don't have to, do I have to? So it's just, I'll just look at my computer, never mind.
And what about bottled water for now?
Oh, I'm good,
Oh, good.
thanks.
Thanks, both got that as well. We're covered here. Do we already announce we're starting?
You're ready when you are.
All right, sorry about that. Jeff Koffel, Executive Director, Tri-County Economic Development District.
Shelley Stevens, Regional Marketing for the County Economic Development District.
Good afternoon. It's already our June update.
It is hard to believe.
Moving fast. Maybe it was a pretty busy month at TED. A lot of grants came through. The bead was finally settled for Ferry County, so we have a bead project coming up in Ferry County for about $12.5 million that we'll be working on. We also got a Thriving Communities grant for $75,000. That'll help with building grant writing capacity across all 3 counties. So if we'll be using our grant writing company Integrant to help develop some tools that we'll share with the nonprofits and the government agencies, as well as some grant writing support and classes over the next year. So we'll be rolling that out. It's kind of a weird contract. They actually have you sign the contract for the amount without a scope of work clearly defined, and you have to go back, and they say, here's your total amount, and you have to go back and negotiate a budget separately and negotiate the scope of work separately. So it's a longer process. Other than that, we've got the production. Are you gonna we'll go to the production schedule first.
Sure.
So everything's on track for filming for Z Canyon next Thursday. It's I think we've got all of the release forms done. And so I think it's just a matter of going through the itinerary. I'll turn it over to Shelley.
Yeah, so, we're going to start it. I'm not sure how far back to go with you guys, but at one point we were thinking of starting at the Pee Wee Falls Scenic Overlook. Getting some drone footage there and then shooting on the, Selma Passage Trail from that point, cause that's the northern terminus of the trail. But then we got inside intel, cause I haven't been on that trail yet, that it was much, or somewhat, not much more scenic, but there was more scenic opportunity from the Riverside Canyon side. So we've swapped that out. We'll still get drone footage from Pee Wee Falls. We'll just do it from the water, because the drone can go wherever we want. So other than that, we're starting there in the morning. We will get hiking and mountain biking on the trail footage there. And then we're heading down to Meadowlane to the boat launch, and we'll begin the boat fun heading north. And then when we get up to Forebay, we'll do kayaking, and we'll have a camper set up in the campground to show some camping. And then there'll be more boating fun back south. So it's gonna be a pretty tight day, full day. Hopefully the weather cooperates. And
Don't look at the weather report today.
Yeah. So yeah, we're on track for everything.
Yep.
Like Jeff said, all the releases have been signed. And I have permissions from the dam with
Make
the,
sure you get a release from Commissioner Jones before he goes through the falls with his
Yeah.
boat. If it looks anything like it did this morning, so.
Was it gonna be a wild
Oh, it was foamy this morning, so.
Yeah. We finally got something coming down out of the hills.
Yeah, they're spilling water at
Yeah,
Bocc and
yeah.
it was foaming up, going good.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's not going too good.
Yeah, hopefully it gets it out of its system.
Yeah. So, I plan to be at the boat launch ramp probably around 10:30 just to
Okay.
launch and get ready. I think the earliest they plan on getting there, well, they plan on being back at the boat launch ramp by 11 to do their lunch and
Right.
then, get on the river about 11:30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, because I mean. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking the launch early, so I'm just ready and I'm not holding anybody up and then just tie it off at the very, very end of that dock so people could still come and go. But there's gonna be two of us waiting essentially.
Yeah, we could wrap it up.
Yeah, outboard or maybe even anchor out there. Right, we'll sort it out. Okay, fair. So I mean, to be clear, I'm not gonna be part of anything before that. I'm not gonna be around.
correct.
Okay, yeah, that was hoping that was the case.
No, Shelley's happy because I'm not gonna be around either.
You're right, exactly. Simplify it.
Oh, I think it'll be fun. I think you'll like this crew and yeah, so I think it'll be a good time.
We did go on a hike a couple weeks ago on the trail. There's a lot of deadfalls. I hope they've cleaned it up since the storm over this last weekend. Be prepared
My
for that.
direct connects, because, the mountain bikers are Evergreen.
Ah.
And so Mick from
Right.
Evergreen told me he would be sure that it was clear
Good.
before we got there, so
Yeah, no, and
fingers
I
crossed.
heard.
Even if it's just a short section that we can film.
Yeah.
Right, yeah,
Exactly. Exactly.
Going far.
Yeah, just pick a section.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of trees come down with this last storm.
He said he would, and also Craig Newman, is going to be there from the forest, and Matt Ramick too.
Okay.
They're both gonna be there. They're gonna be hikers or extras or whatever.
Right.
They're gonna have their bikes too. And so they know we're going to be there and know about the trail.
Yes, and maybe they'll bring a chainsaw.
We'll have a chainsaw,
Mhm.
Okay.
cause we'll be camping and
Yeah.
we'll have a chainsaw, so. Yeah. So I think that's all on that. So do you want me to go over the?
Yeah.
Okay, so, for the general marketing report for last month. So a big event for last month was the Recreation Economy for Rural Communities Grant in Republic. And, I won't spend much time on it, but just to say it was really successful. We had a fantastic turnout, and one of the most exciting things was the number of people that attended from federal agencies, and state agencies from across the country. We had folks from DC there, Olympia. They're all different agencies that have potential to offer some sort of resources as Republic figures out this strategic plan. So that was really great. We had about 55 participants for each workshop, community members and these various agency reps. We started on Tuesday with a recreation asset tour, and mostly for those out of town folks to show them what Republic and Ferry County already had going on. And then we had I forget, you guys aren't following along with me because it's not there. So there's just some photos of the different places we visited. We got a school bus and a party bus, and they drove us around, and that was.
Is this, Shelley,
Mhm.
and is this economy or is that economy?
Typo?
I'm legitimate, I'm like, is there a new
Yeah.
phrase we've coined and
That was Shelley.
Yeah, it was.
well, it looks deliberate because the O's are both different, right? And so it looks like,
So I don't know what I was doing.
Own it.
Yeah.
It's intentional.
It's artistic.
it is that.
Oh, gosh, I will change that. Anyways, so that was very cool. Okay, let's go.
One
Okay.
of the things about, a good learning point out of it was that, like Shelley said, a lot of the state and federal agencies showed up. And since this was an EPA funded grant, they brought a lot of folks from the EPA, and they were oddly enough brownfield
Right.
folks.
A lot of brownfield
And-
rep.
And it was interesting because we also had the State Department of Ecology there, and a lot of sidebars about, what community members thought were contaminated sites versus what
Right.
ecology thought were contaminated versus what EPA thought was.
Right.
And so it really was sort of drove the point home that if you have any assumptions about a piece of property being a brownfield, it's a little bit more than just a simple, one-stop
The
answer.
short answer is don't assume. It is do the legwork.
Yeah.
And we have some significant properties in Monterey County that if, depending on who you ask, you're gonna get 10 different answers of what's going on there.
Mhm.
And, and even just last week, we had a meeting about the comprehensive plan update up north, and I'm like, hey, we don't know. Until they do assessment, until they actually look at it, we don't.
And one thing I thought was interesting was even if a piece of property, if the community perceives,
Exactly,
but it's not, but
exactly.
it perceives, it could still be eligible for funding.
Because
Yeah,
it
yeah.
impedes the reuse of that
Right.
property.
It's market value and everything.
Who's gonna go to a park if they think there's lead contamination?
Exactly.
Even if they're wrong, it impedes the reuse.
Mhm. Yeah.
Until it's proved otherwise.
Yeah, and then there's that, and then there's also what, if you think you just all gonna go to the state ecology site, the state ecology site looks at, some of the sites that they list as closed, no action required, were closed long ago, and it was not closed because of cleanup, it was closed maybe because they capped it, it was an old
Right.
gas station, they paved over it,
Right.
so no further action required at that time,
Right.
so.
Gotcha, yeah.
So,
So we'll see, so we have, I mean, there's still work to be done on till we end up with the plan for Republic. We have 3 more scheduled steering committee meetings, and also anyone who attended or any of these federal or state reps, they're all invited to these subsequent meetings. So any of the community members, even if they weren't on the original steering committee, can join now. So we have 3 more of those. And then next in the report, I just wanted to include, you guys may remember that every year we do advertising with the Scenic Wa map and guidebook through lodging tax dollars. And so those are just pictures, some screenshots of
page 6.
book, yeah, on page 6. So it says northeast corner, that's our section. And so we have.
And that's your section, that's Z Canyon got,
Well,
isn't that?
this is from the Portage
Oh,
Park,
Portage.
but it's of the river.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so the copy in there, and then we have an ad and some more images and things like that. So they always do such a nice job, and we've received all of our hard copies of that. And then I just wanted to share that this was kind of an unusual month for requests for our images from other organizations and things. The state of Washington Tourism has a new scenic byway website that includes the North Ponderay Scenic Byway and the International Selkirk Loop. And so images for both of those are all ours. So on the photo of Bocc Canyon Dam and Garner Cave and the Portage Trail and everything. So it's a nice website. And then the National Forest Foundation website for their section of the Colville National Forest. Those are our images also. That was cool. The Newport Miner, they used our images and then also information for our social media post on the Northeast Washington Trails Facebook page. They just took our copy about each trail and used it in their guidebook for this year, which is great. And then, oh, damn nabbit, I wrote down all the updated numbers. So on our most popular social media posts for May, for the Northeast Washington trails, it was once again Bead Lake. I post Bead Lake about twice a year, and I don't know, I guess it's because it's beautiful, but it just goes bananas. And when I put this report together last Monday, the post had only been up for 3 days. And it was already up to over 220,000 views and things. And so Jeff wanted me to get updated numbers for it now, and it did go up, not crazy, but it's up about 250. And uh the kind of the new metric that I like a lot is that down at the bottom where it says saved. Those are people that have saved the post, which just tells me that they're interested in visiting, so they want to save that information and come back. And so that number's up to almost 500 now. So that's huge. And then also the number of people that followed the page from this post was about 480 now. So that's new followers. Just they click the follow button on this post, so that encouraged them to follow the page. It's cool. And then on the Visit Northeast Washington post, it was Colville Flats on Lake Roosevelt. And then I had also included in your packet I was over here last month getting some new pictures for our image library. So I went to Skookum Creek and Indian Creek Community Forest, did that trail. And I went, oh, and I didn't change that. That's not Indian Creek. I went out to Mystic Lake. It says Indian Creek, but I forgot to change it. I was in a hurry this morning. And then out to Browns Lake. I didn't have pictures of the campground since they had done all the hazardous tree removal a couple years ago. So. And yeah, that is all.
Any questions?
Very good.
So, as you all know, I'm leaving at the end of September, and as part of, and the executive committee is well on their way through the process of hiring or getting ready to interview to hire my replacement. And as part of that, for a turnover, I've been going through and looking at job descriptions for all of the staff. And, because depending on how anytime we have such a small staff, that anytime there's a turnover, we kind of, adjust jobs as needed. And specific to Ponderay County is marketing and tourism. And so, Shelley's been with us for 10 years and
11 and a half.
11 and a half years, and longer than me, Shelley, longer than me. And so, when we look at, we redid her job description, I think, probably 6 years ago. We redid it right before the pandemic. But even since then, there's been a lot of, sort of additional duties added on. I mean, things like Washington Film Works and all the videos that we've done and all that. And so, I think the big question is, what do you like that we do on the marketing side, and where would you rather us spend more time? Just as we look at, how to devote time, especially as we do sort of position rewrites. And some of it's going to be, some of it may not be marketing director stuff. It may end up, moving over towards economic development. We've been trying to get Ryan to take over Washington Film Works stuff, but or website, some of the website management may go over to our office manager, to Ryan. But so just because it may not end up in marketing isn't the big deal. But what we really want to know is, what is it that you like that is a must keep?
Oh, well, a couple of pieces there. Because you're sort of in a it's a plus one. You add something, every month or every quarter or whatever else, but then you have kind of your maintenance as well, right? And so I don't have any strategic notes for like do it better. it's a dynamite product. It's just a great product. And so, but it's the consistency that we finally have that makes it work, right? People know that there's going to be something new when they go visit instead of that was the same stuff from, from years and years ago. Didn't learn anything, international soccer, but whatever else it is, right? So so fresh, continuing with the fresh content, I think is just how you get more people to say this is a reliable source for new and exciting things to do in the area. The feedback that I get, and this is really more District 1 and 2 or through Newport, is the amount of traffic we get for any reason is enviable. We get people coming through our county in large numbers. And so this one specifically would be Highway 2 through Newport and straight out into Idaho and all of them. We get a bunch of people turn off 211 and head north. It isn't inherently turned into dollars. And so can we you've done a good job, but can we always tie it to a place to spend a single dollar? Somehow while you're here, think about, and I don't know the answer to that, but it is the thing. It's like, boy, we've got all this traffic. The whole conversation in Newport about the two-way street and how WashDOT really kind of, hurt us when they changed that to one way, two different directions. Everybody comes through on a street with no businesses when they have money, and they come home and all the businesses are closed and they've spent their money, and it's awful. And would you get out anyway? Because Idaho's 300 yards down the road, and my gas and alcohol and the rest of it's cheaper, right? But it is kind of that. Is there a way to translate this into revenue for the county? Don't know the answer to that. I don't. But is there a place to plug in trailside coffee? That kind of thing. Like, is there a place? I recommend you get out and spend $1, please, kind of thing. And we might just be at the leading edges of that, kayak rentals or guided tours or whatever else it might be. But that's where I'd like to see it go.
Chewelah has struggled with this for years, and anybody who's been here for a long time remembers back in the 80s when Chewelah was tied very closely with the mountain, and you had Polanski's Pizza, and you had the Chalet restaurant, and the
little
40
beanie thing going on.
Yeah, they had that little ski town thing going, and then they kind of lost it over the years, and now there's no sign that says stop and get 10% off with your lift ticket type thing. And we've seen this, and Chewelah is just kind of a glaring example, but we see this across the region, is that our chambers have become very event focused, and they don't do as much of the business stuff. And so that might be something where we could have Ryan and Shelley work with the Jessica and the chambers on maybe how do we stop traffic? How do you stop them before they go to Idaho or before they leave? And I don't know what the answer is either, but there's got to be something that, there's got to be a value proposition that's going to make somebody stop. And whether it's, Chewelah, I think has got the no-brainer with, show us your lift ticket and get a discount. But there's probably something that we're not thinking of just yet.
Well, if they're going through Newport, they have the option to turn north at 211 and go right through the heart of the county. And so maybe some of the answers right there. So maybe some better, more compelling signage, and there's a lot of signs on that little stretch. But is it signed for Pee Wee Falls that far down? Is it signed for Sweet Creek that far? Probably not.
Just a reminder.
Yeah. So just,
Kind of like the historical marker signs.
Right, yeah.
Like,
Recreation
recreation or
Yeah.
don't miss Pee Wee Falls or.
Right. I guess I would view this, if we talk about job description, Shelley, what is your passion and what is your skill? And when I look at people's job descriptions and what we have them do, I always start with who they are and what they're good at. If I had to say, what do we want more of? in my opinion, for North Monterey County, I would like to see more work on a unified brand and branding. And that, we create a unique and specific kind of image and brand in people's minds.
Mhm.
And then I would like to see more, uh, specific targeted placement on social media platforms for that brand. And I'm not saying you aren't doing that, but more targeted.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know what your passion is really. I mean, obviously you're passionate about a lot of these things, but and what your skill set is. Maybe you don't like to sit behind a computer and do social media things. There are people that love to do that. I know that. And
It used to be a lot more fun, right?
yeah, exactly. And if that's not, well, maybe we need to put that on somebody else's job description. You know, and I don't know, and I'm not taking Jeff's job, I'm just saying, that's the way I like to do
Well,
things.
and that's how I do too, and that's how we,
Yeah.
and that's, well, that's how we got to where we are, so I've
Right.
got a job description, it does not match what she does.
Right, and that's so often the case,
Honed in a more generic
right?
sense, you know, so, yeah.
You know, and I know the folks up in Medley Falls have been talking about this as a town of kind of creating a brand for the town for recreational marketing and an image. I think that's important in my view. You know, I tell people when I give somebody a tour of my sawmill, they're gonna buy from me. Every single time. Because they have a person and they have an image and they have a story to go with it. And I think that's important. And that you create that and then you put it in front of the target audience. And it's real specific. So for North Monterey County, that's what I think.
So who's the target audience?
Target audience to me would be
Where do your customers come from?
where my customers all come from Idaho. They're building homes.
Uh-huh,
But for recreational marketing, I think a target audience would be a nearly retired or retired couple that has money and time to spend and yet still has their health to get out in public lands and attracted to places like Z Canyon and our public lands and right grade.
and you think that more the.
That's a demographic.
That's more the demographic, you
Yeah.
don't see the young mountain bikers.
Well, absolutely. I think
No,
that,
no, those guys don't have any money.
yeah, well, some,
Young mountain bikers.
no, they don't,
They're-
that's true.
They spend it
But
on their bikes.
you know what? There's some young couples that have moved to North Monterey County recently because of that opportunity.
Mhm.
And they've sought employment here because of that opportunity. So I don't want to neglect that.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that is true, but to me, that creating that brand and creating that image specific to our county, that's where I would spend my time.
Okay.
Did, you saw the map that Shelley created for the region, we've talked about doing a.
Love that, by the way.
We've
So
talked
good.
about, we've talked about doing, on the flip side of that, maps specific to the counties or specific to towns.
Yes,
She would be, what I was thinking, I mean, is the flip side would be,
It's your thing.
the flip side would be the region and the primary would, you know, if it was being handed out, you know, would be the county and,
Yeah,
and would,
yeah, we just print it
yeah,
upside down, but or backwards.
Yeah.
But that's also something, then is it, Republic's pretty obvious because, it's easier to do sort of a map of Republic. On the back because there's not a whole lot of Ferry County to begin with, right, half of the
Right.
reservation.
right.
But, we could easily, not easily, but we could do a full map of Ponderay County on the front and then the region map on the back.
I'm all in and laminate it and get it in any building of any significance. And we could do the laminating part, but I mean, there's no reason we can't have one, City Hall, I mean, in each of the towns potentially.
I just
But every
printed
building we
a
have.
poster sized one for my office.
Yeah.
It's great. It's a
You know,
dynamite product.
North Monterey County is a little different. Unless you're going to Canada, there's no reason to go through there. And there's fewer and fewer people going to Canada. and on that road, it's not 395. It's not. And so it's a little different. A lot of our visitors are driven by the public lands and driven by the campgrounds and driven by Sullivan Lake and driven by those locations like that. And I think there's gonna be a lot more by Z Canyon. I think that will attract some, but the green space up there is what brings people there. Unless they're traveling through. And when I think of Republic, well, I'm traveling. I'm taking the highway and I'm going through but North Monterey County, they wanna see the campground, they wanna see Sullivan Lake, or they wanna go here, they wanna go there. And they're the one, and they largely do stop, unlike here, because it's so remote. There's no other place.
Sure.
If you're in Medellin Falls, you're gonna be hungry by the time you get somewhere else.
And then just because it triggered it, there may be knowledge barriers there, like, oh, I know
Yeah.
there's mountain biking, but like,
Right.
can you give me a mile marker? Where do I pull off, sort of thing? Not just, hey, if you
Right.
get up there far enough, you'll see some mountain biking. Like, if you didn't know where to put in for Z Canyon, where would you put in for Z Canyon?
Right.
There's no guide to tell you that. And I didn't know until the day I did, so I don't know, maybe, and I don't know how you would make a place for that information.
I think on the Wonderfully Wild website, we had envisioned sort of itineraries.
Mhm.
And part of it, it doesn't necessarily have to be, there are itineraries, but it could be, we could have more
Yeah, oh,
specific,
gosh.
specific directions. Yeah, specific directions on how to mountain or how to boat,
Right.
Z Canyon, or how
That's
to.
great. A
Like,
map.
we
Okay.
could do even versions of that map, one for boaters, one for, or on the water or something, and then have a QR code that then goes to the website that has more specific drill down
Yeah.
information and links off and things that, people get confused about, do I need a Discover Pass? Do I need
Yeah.
is there a fee at this state? Or, yeah, okay.
I'll tell you, I had a 26-foot toy hauler and went exploring with it and got stuck on a very narrow road that I had to turn around. And it was something like a 30-point turn I did with this trailer. And people, waiting and honking and all the rest. And so it's like, you kind of want to know before you're dragging something around, especially you make that last turn off the highway and I don't know what's down here. Please tell me, before I leave the road, that I know what I'm doing, or I'm just not gonna.
I'm going to the Overland Expo in a few weeks, the Northwest one, so I'm looking forward to seeing all the, that's getting to be a really huge trend.
Yeah.
And
And
stuff.
that reminds me of something also that I think is a growth opportunity for us is motorized recreational tourism. And I think in North Monterey County, the steady growth of the Catherine Maupin Memorial Fun Run and the steady growth of folks bringing their side-by-sides and UTVs and motorized recreational tourism and opportunities for that, it is growing a lot. And those folks have money, you see them coming down the road, and this last week when we had that, there were some of those rigs going north that were, 6 figures into the equipment. So they have money, and they're younger, they're families. A lot of them are professional people with businesses or whatever, and they go tear it up on the weekends. But I think that's an opportunity as well. I would like to see that be one of our targets.
I can tell you the tribe is, well, I mean, in as much that Kurt speaks for some of what they're doing is, excited about that, which is obviously why they poured into that at the casino. They have the RV spots there and a lot of the UTVers take off out of there, but it's something that they are currently all in on, just very excited about. And so there'd be some collaborative opportunities there as well as, potential funds for sure. And then
Do you have a local ATV club over here?
Yeah, Selkirk Trail Riders,
Okay, because since
Trailblazers, Selkirk Trailblazers.
since
And I can
the,
give you contact info if you need.
yeah, because the Tri-County motorized.
I
folks
think
is
the
kind of-
mayor
is
the
kind of-
mayor Dion is on the board of the Trailblazers.
All right. What other input do you need, Shelley?
Anything from you, Commissioner? Any-
You have covered it all.
Okay.
All right, that's all we have.
All right, very good. Thank you. Robert,
you.
you didn't have anything?
Thank you. No.
Yes, all these others.
Yeah, I love that map, Shelley. I lived here for 30 years before I ever saw Sweet Creek, and then, you know, I don't know, 35 before I ever saw Z Canyon. So you could be right here and never really know.
It happens.
And there are people that haven't been much north of Newport, Cusick,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, like, why would you go up there?
Cause it's awesome.
Because it's awesome.
Port Elizabeth, what country is that? Is that the Namibia or something?
Yeah. These will all go out to we'll scan these and send them back via email, since most of them didn't, you know. But we've had a few more inquiries that we just turned them down at the email.
Someone applied for Namibia?
Well, with Indeed, you can do anything.
Thank you.
Thank you for these. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Where are you camping next?
Four Bay Campground next week for this
great.
videoing.
Yeah, okay.
We'll set up.
Yeah.
We were
Lots
just
of
at
paper
that.
clip.
Northern Lights this past for the big storm.
We'll be back.
But then we got a text that a big tree had come down through my horse corral and across her driveway.
Oh, dang.
So.
Yeah, hopefully you guys got.
We packed up.
The ball.
We survived.
Now we have six months.
Shelley lost part of her horse.
Yeah, but-
Let you go through first or Dead Man Betty.
The March windstorm at our house.
Don't ask too
The
much.
tree over both sections of our driveway, like we had no egress.
Oh, my God, yeah.
And just like root balls bigger than this table.
Oh, no.
It's a lot.
Man, yeah, it was annoying. We had the whole campground to ourselves and it was so nice. Like, dang.
You got everything you needed.
Yes.
That's right.
And all you guys.
You guys, I shall.
Okay.
Okay, Brian, can I go over episode 1 of the Culture Corner?
Episode 1, I like that.
Episode 1, we were given some homework here as the commissioners. So we started with the word cloud. You remember the word cloud? The more people put in an idea, that word would get bigger and bigger and bigger. And one of the biggest was communication, which seemed like a great place to start because all the rest of the stuff will really be derivative of good communication or otherwise. And so have to really kind of outline what is good communication in the context of a culture change. Safe, trusted, empowered, transparent, and engaged. And so, I was reflecting on, I feel like I say with some frequency, hey, if I get it wrong, kick me under the table, just call it out. I want to know, General, you blew that one. And so I can say it a lot, but have I truly created a safe space? And I could think of a couple times in the last couple of weeks where Crystal gave me corrective advice. And I don't know that I took it well, but I took it and I implemented it. And so for better or for worse, that's how that went. And so if you're trying to say, are you doing a good job creating a place where people can give you feedback, then you'd be evaluating that on a case by case basis. Are people giving you feedback? Are people giving you tough feedback? And that would be one of the indicators. We don't want to be in a situation where we had let's say hypothetically, an outgoing director who had a stranglehold on, the information highway through their department, and people were afraid to speak out. And we could send HR over there to sit there for the day, and they still wouldn't say anything. Right? Like, don't be seen talking to HR. We want to avoid that at all costs. So the usual suspects for communication, but then engagement was really, kind of the order of the day. How do we get people engaged? And I want to jump back for a second because in its simplest form, a culture change really only has three parts. It's creation, right? It's the planning stage, the implementation stage, and then the maintenance stage. And unfortunately, we're building the plane while we're flying. We are treating these as three separate things. We're still having just started having culture club meetings, but we've already implemented a good bit of it, and that stuff has to be maintained, and that falls to leadership. So we're truly building the plane while we fly it. A lot of the research I was doing, I kept noticing a common theme, and it's just almost impossible to change a whole culture. It's just 15% ever had really widespread success. Saying, I want to change that culture and do it, just flat execute it. But it is a whole lot easier to start with just one high impact behavior. Right. To just say this thing has got to go or this thing has got to be implemented. And that's bite size, right? That is something that you could make an impact. So we started with communication. We are communicating, go over what's changed since the county, the all staff training, and since people started talking about the culture change. Actually implemented quite a bit of these things. Tons of work to do, of course, still, but we're working on our sort of a second recognition, right? We recognized integrity first, and now it's service, right? And so, but we went back and visited that. I think they got a coffee coin. They got a coffee coin and an email is what they got. Well, we can turn that up. And frankly, there was a lot of conversation around who's paying for coffee coins, who's paying for any of the stuff where so my suggestion would be print a certificate. I'd rather have a certificate. I'd rather have something something small, I could stand up here, or something I can hang on my wall or my Zoom room, home or whatever, and say, I got this, instead of the coffee coin came and went, it's gone. Or potentially something else. And so this is the first bit of homework, and it might be for you, Smiley, if you want to volunteer or voluntold. Think about, we have, so we got 9 nominations for integrity. We would send that back out. We would have to narrow it down to 1, or we would choose to narrow it down to 1. Even though all 9 would get their certificate, 1 would be the ultimate. Like I got the most votes, just throughout the departments. And then maybe have a board in this building, outside the commissioner's room, and our integrity person for the year is this person. And they get an 8x10 photo but it would be kind of a large wooden plaque-ish, Brian, if you see where I'm going with this, where you could slide a photo in and out. The whole
yeah.
plaque stays the same, it's just the photo that changes. And then we move on to service, and that service person goes until, the whole year, right?
Yeah.
Or until you get around to service again and they get replaced. And then because I'm this building centric, I can be selfish that way, but there isn't a reason we couldn't build that one for maybe 3 buildings. All of justice and then counseling services, or, or more, I don't know. But have it in places where people are gonna see you got recognized, and this is something to aspire to if you didn't, or if you were close, or if nobody's talking about you. So, that is a way to communicate our values. On the theme of communication, right? More assessments. We've done anonymous survey. The royal we, Shannon's used that to good effect, right? We use sort of an anonymous survey in creating that thought cloud. It's just more information. We're still using that information. So it stands to reason if that information has that much value to us, why wouldn't we gather more frequently, more often?
Right.
You guys can jump in anywhere, just run, because I'm trying to jump the crowd, but, so anonymous survey is just one of the tools. We can have focus groups. This is more for the culture club. I think we will incorporate this. Focus groups or team interviews. Pull one person from each department and get a sampling and sit them down and say, what's broken? What do we want to keep at all cost? But also, interviews, anecdotes, one-on-ones. I mean, that is something the commissioners do, have one-on-ones. One thing that was brought up, the commissioners have a feedback mechanism for communicating. Kudos, and Crystal gave it to us with the jar. And so they immediately improved on that and said, well, why don't you have different colors of beads for each of the items? Why would you have 5 colors? So you're not just saying good job, but you're saying this is a service thing, this is a growth thing, this is an integrity thing, and call it out. Take it or leave it. But to say, don't just say it's extraordinary, say why it's extraordinary, and so it was a theme that came up again and again, is that a culture change the genesis of culture change had to be top down, but it simply would not take unless it was grassroots up. There had to be buy-in. And then, what was the other piece I read? Oh, 50 to 70% of your perception on culture traced to the actions of one person. Who's that person? Your boss.
Yeah.
Or the boss. It could be either interchangeably.
Yeah.
But when someone's complaining, it's a good chance they're complaining about their boss. When they're complaining, it's wages or it's unfairness or right. I mean, so and so it just really kind of put a good bit more weight, on the department heads and the elected officials or anyone who's supervising or managing. Human resources printed these cards. I want to give one to each of you. This is another way we can communicate. And you'll see the values are on the bottom. I feel this way. So hypothetically, you could go like this. Crystal, your work for the 250 celebration is an extraordinary effort of service and collaboration. And then I chose to highlight service and collaboration and.
Oh, you really did it.
And yeah. And start handing those out like candy. It costs you nothing. It's something that they can package. That says specifically what we're trying to do. You are what you measure, but you also are what you give feedback on. Right? I strengthen that. And so, just another thing that they can hold on to. So there's not just lip service. There was some sentiment that it'll only carry so far in your own department, right? Before like, okay, we're just trying to make up things to hand around our department. Well, if you are, then, you know, whatever. But that if you got recognized from somebody else's department, that kind of felt really cool. You know, boy, they noticed me from all the way across there. And so we're certainly encouraged to reach into other departments with these cards or whatever else, nominations, all the rest of it, right? Um, because it requires that you put yourself in their shoes. Um,
I would love these to be available.
what's that?
Yeah,
I'd love for these to be available.
Yeah, we give her authority to go print out a whole ton of them, and I think it'd be a great idea if we just kept stacks of them in here.
Yeah.
One I thought was really interesting, and this was just an article Marion sent out shortly before. You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. So how much does policy affect? So we could sit down for a meeting every Columbus Day and get everybody whipped up. And then eventually the system is not designed in such a way that it requires any of us to give anybody feedback. Nor does your paycheck change if you do it as part of systems. There's nothing to reward you. There's nothing to make you look better or proud or anything like that until there is. And that's a part of the system. And so having that plaque or the card um, raises the floor, you know. So a lot of our conversations are about raising the ceiling. How do you raise the floor and make sure we don't fall to a place? Some of that's accountability. Accountability was one of the things that, you know, we were answering the questions, well, what do you want to see change? Or what would you choose not to change? What do you love about this? And one of the things I wanted to see change is kind of based on the department head saying many of them were avoiding tough conversations, but also avoiding malcontent employees. And I was really tying that to accountability. If you had someone you knew needed to be dealt with and chose not to, what could that do to an organization? So I just asked the group specifically, I said, you don't have any authority in another department, but has someone from another department ever ruined your day? The answer is yes. Are there plenty of, you know, I mean, like it's happened. And then, you know, what you should have seen everybody at the table start looking at each other like, oh, you know, like they have one they wanted to talk about there on the spot. And so it's like, well, we don't have any authority over another elected. How do you help them with a troublesome employee? It's tough. Part of the answer is you don't really, you know, with no authority. And so you really kind of have to normalize it that you're always going to have the tough conversations, you know. I mean, that's a little bit of the courage thing, but also there's no place for a malcontent employee to spread whatever, you know, that poison pill, because you ever get two of those together and it'll ruin, you know, a floor hypothetically.
yes.
What are the benefits? We're not an IOU, we're not a commercial shop. So the payoff for us is different than the payoff for a Fortune 500 company. It's just a different thing. Steady organizational leadership would be one, financial stability can be one, and high community survey ratings can be one. And I think that's ultimately what we're talking about. We're talking about service to each other, but service to the community. And so when they, you know, our ability to fill a pothole, I mean, that, you know, starts at the top and goes all the way down to the guy who's actually doing it. And you can see what a difference having a Rory out in the field makes with a disgruntled, you know, citizen more than anything, right? Like one of his greatest skills, right? And so how do we make more of those? And then I think that's mostly what I chose to highlight. So, Crystal, you can do the, I mean, do it or don't do it as you like with, with beads. I did bring in some red and green ones that I had at home.
No,
So I'll leave those here one way or the other, but it could be something as if I think it would, if it's meaningful now, it would be a little bit more meaningful the other way, you know, especially like if somebody said that I was brave, that if I demonstrated courage, I mean, that would be cool. I would like to hear that, you know, right? And not that one's better than the other, but it's one thing to say, oh yeah, good job, you know. Oh, okay, and there goes
Well, I
the
could
thing in the
be-
jar, I enjoy it, but then to say, this specifically is that what we're trying to do is lead by example and say, these 5 values, one of them you have demonstrated, and just call it out again, ad nauseam, right? You know, let's, just normalize the conversation about these 5. And so that was the goal. It was centered around communication and how do we do that better? And so take your thoughts or enjoy it. Really enjoy it.
Sounds like it. Yeah, I can see you doing that and getting down to the end and having all one color left and thinking, you know, we need to work on this.
You know, oh no, it was very much, is you could look at the jar at a glance and say, now some of them, like, we could place bets on which one's gonna be, you know, you already kind of know, service will be way up there, you know.
Right.
But you're absolutely right, you can see at a glance what we need to work on.
Right. Dolly, how are you?
Doing all right, how are you doing?
Good to see you in person.
Good to see you as well.
you have a few minutes, could I,
Sure.
see if you're aware of this, let me find it. Okay. Governor Ferguson signed an executive order today to support women in the workplace experiencing perimenopause and menopause.
Okay, thank you so much.
On this list, so. Executive Order 2601 directs the Washington State Women's Commission to work with cabinet agencies to implement appropriate accommodations for people experiencing menopause, as well as guidance and training resources for state agencies and other public and private employers. So likely some people also incorporate them in short order.
You're welcome. Bye.
Wow, that's a sticky wicket.
You're all married, so we'll need to talk more about that, right?
No, I was talking more to the angle where he has to say people instead of women, and I was like, oh, come on.
Okay. Thank you for that, Crystal.
In case you had missed it, I wanted to make sure.
Yes, I will incorporate
Oh,
that,
fine.
even in my own private business. I will make sure and get on that.
When private business was doing some heavy lifting there. Dolly, I was curious because there's some placement company keeps reaching out to me. Did we ever try to spend money to find, I mean, like directly try to find a company like that, you know, a profit or whatever, to find you a person?
When I've seen what they charged,
Yeah.
it really doesn't make sense for us,
Expensive.
because all they do is send letters to the other offices.
Yeah.
Cause I get them all the time, like, do you wanna
Yes.
become a city
Yeah.
attorney? And I'm like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did, I recently myself, but.
Holy delete.
Well, you'd be surprised how many I get in the mail, so, I mean, I think cost wise, it doesn't make sense. I know I've talked to Brenda on a few of the, I guess, the headhunting groups, and when you look at what they charge, I'm like, yeah, no. I mean, I think our bill for the spokesman was $900. For advertising, which was crazy, but.
Yeah.
That's gonna be the most likely of, the group that are at the law school there in Gonzaga, or. Attorneys in that Spokane area, as far as housing and some of the other challenges we have with our positions, so. We've looked at some, but I kind of felt they were cost prohibitive.
Do we
for
know
us.
how we found Tristan?
I don't remember his materials, what he exactly saw, but I know we had it in the spokesman and had it at the law school.
Yeah.
So. And it works out that his wife's family's lives on the Idaho side, so,
Oh.
yeah, so there's a connection here, so. Yeah.
That's almost always a connection.
Well, and you know, just as we're starting. So that, I mean, that is kind of the thing is we can get people in the door and then, you know, health insurance and housing are the two next, you know, barriers for us. So yeah, we've, you know, any of the luck we've had is usually folks that have some type of tie here and have possibilities as far as housing or within the Spokane area to be able to drive. So yeah, we keep working at it.
Well, Commissioner Smiley got 5 times the number of short plats this year compared to any other year. So
Really,
we're working on the
That
housing.
means we got 5.
let's bring down,
Five.
let's bring down.
It's
the
like, that's like
cost of
15
housing.
homes.
Right.
The other challenge, the cost of housing.
Yeah.
So fortunately, I'm not getting millionaires coming in as deputy prosecutors for the
Yeah.
most part, so. Yeah, so, just a few things, probably within the probably next week, I'm gonna be sending a head sheet requesting that you reclassify my victim witness coordinator position to admin 4, which is the same as my 2 legal assistant positions. It's currently an admin 3. Already, worked with Jill and, Brenda on that, so I'll send a formal request next week once I actually do the head sheet. I'll probably come next week or the week after, probably the week after, because I don't think Doug's until next week. To make some adjustments to some of the language on my professional service contract, specifically Exhibit B, to give me a little bit more flexibility in helping pay for more training, or if he's gonna stay at a hotel for some of the training that's related to our licensing. So I will work on that as well next week. So we are working through a lot of policy revision. So Tristan has worked through the purchasing policy. It's kind of over to Jill for some more review, really about the practical application of what it looks like on the back end for the department. So we have a revised purchasing policy incorporating the really a lot of the federal language. The state auditor said we can't just say C2 CFR. We have to actually list it out. So a lot of the changes will be around actually putting it on paper as opposed to just linking them to the actual code. So
So how big is that gonna make this document?
I don't remember where it last stopped, but it's probably almost 30 pages now.
Okay.
But it should hopefully be for the most part a one-stop shop.
Okay.
And it gives at least enough reference to maybe some of the departments that don't do a lot of purchasing or procurement, enough to be like, I should ask for help, or here's a statute that might apply to me. So hopefully that, you know, kind of protects us for those departments that don't do this every day. And at the same time, we're updating the kind of small works roster ordinance, which we had done a lot of heavy lifting about, I think it's about been 2 years now, when there was some major changes to the roster, because the statute has where the amounts are gonna change every few years. You know, like if it's up to 150,000 for a project, it's changing every few years. So those changes will be reflected with this procurement policy. So we'll have both of those, that resolution and the purchasing policy. Our intent is to bring those down at the same time. So we're doing it all at the same time. Work through some suggestions on the risk management policy with Teresa Deal. Her and Brenda have been leading that. So that should probably I would say probably in the next month, you'll have between the back and forth with with whichever department we're dealing with, that back and forth, just to make sure we have the language right. So I suspect you'll be seeing something from Teresa on the risk management policy, which is referenced in the purchasing policy. So hopefully that will work out where we can update all the references to the most current version of what's in place. So you guys will have a lot of policies to review. Nuisance, kind of the code enforcement. We have a kind of first draft that's out to the health district, John. We're gonna set up some meetings to kind of talk about some of the nuances, since they're a separate, you know, health district and they're not just home to our county. So just making sure our language in any county policy is broad enough to allow them to determine, you know, whatever policies they need to, but the enforcement piece also kind of marries with any local policy, because challenges in having 3 different counties share one health district could be an issue.
And by local, did you incorporate by reference the municipalities in that?
No, this is only a county policy. They have to adopt their own. But no, I mean, local to Pondering County, since the health district is part of Stevens and Ferry, so that can sometimes be challenging. So working through that, we have some meetings forthcoming. I know we've sent it over to the sheriff's office to kind of start to, look at, here's what we're thinking and what we're going to propose. What does that look like in practical effect? Or your piece. So trying to have those departments that would have the most, and I think we may have sent it over to Greg's group too, in planning, because there's some references there with some of the code. But broad enough because we have multiple departments with multiple different policies, but really focusing on what's enforcement look like when you violate those separate kind of policies. I know what Tristan and I have talked about is also setting up any future ordinances that it will be written in code style, so it has like chapters. So if we get to the point where we actually codify it, it'll be easier for that transition because it's kind of in that format that we would send it to a company that codifies it. So that's going to be kind of the format that it comes over to the board in. Now he's starting to work through the dog ordinance. So that's on his desk as well. He's doing other things too, but we had a few that, we have that are priorities. So then we'll begin again that conversation with the courts, with the sheriff's office. Are we doing this? Can we do this? Is this part maybe better served in another department? So there's some pieces that we will make sure before we send any proposal to the board that we've vetted it through the departments that it would impact, is our hope. So those are working through our office. Sent a revision regarding your kind of director employment contracts to Brenda. So kind of, address the issue with some of the severance pay. I think what we noted as over time, maybe certain positions that were not director positions were using that using kind of our draft, and it started to change.
Right.
So we've kind of communicated with HR on, in the future, let's do it this way. And if there are maybe some negotiated changes, that come to us first before there's adjustments by someone outside the legal office. So we don't have different versions that are being adjusted to fit different situations. And then we end up going back to the version that might not apply to director. So I looked at it, I looked at the copy and I was like, these aren't the same. So I'm not sure where it started to change, but having looked back at some of the, I guess, non-director positions, I can see where it started to maybe pieces were changed out using that template. So we have a version out to Brenda, and I'm sure if she hasn't already, she'll be chatting with the board. Have a number of trials coming up. This week actually was our trial week, but we continued 2 of the trials to the 15th. So I'm gearing up for 2 trials. Obviously only one's gonna go, but we're gonna try to do the best for both of them. We're adjusting to the every other month jury trial settings, which is a little challenging, obviously with some of the operational challenges in our office with our vacancies. That's times 10. So our office is trying to adjust back to that. And then also kind of talking with the departments, particularly the sheriff's office, how that mass subpoenas coming out for the same 30 or 40 cases that are set for the same week, how that looks for theirs, because it's much easier for me to send those out early than to try to get people under subpoena right before the trial setting. So what's kind of happening is essentially every Thursday when we have a Superior Court docket, you're kind of determining, is that case going to resolve? Is that going to case likely go forward to trial? What I'm running up against is we're not narrowing those cases down fast enough. So like last week, I still had 7 set for today. Week before, I think we were 14. Week before it was 30 some, and I can't prepare for that many cases. I can prepare for I alone cannot prepare for that many cases. So we're trying to make some adjustments on efficiency with the current makeup I have in my office, and then just to figure out how we can be a little bit more nimble when we still have that many left the week before trial, because it takes a lot to gear up even on the simple trials. So we're going to work through some different things internally to see how we can manage that the best. So got that going. Seems like we're at the point, obviously with the state fiscal year, July 1, so we're starting to see a lot of the state grants coming through for signature in very short order, so Tristan and I will kind of be tag teaming those to get those quickly turned around as well.
Dolly, on those, do you feel like you ever come to a place where Tristan's signature is enough, or?
Yeah, I mean, at a point it will be. I mean, like I said, once he has the experience, I'll be like, hey, CC me in them, because then I can make sure that
Right.
things are being done. Yeah, no, he'll definitely, hopefully be able to take over the majority of it.
Yeah.
But,
Well, that was
ultimately,
kind of my
yeah.
concern, is if you had to go through and scrub the whole thing, even with his signature,
Yeah. I
does
mean,
it save you over?
feel comfortable that he has a, good understanding, particularly municipal and some of the municipal differences for contracting, then, he will be the one doing those. But ultimately I'm responsible for him as well, so
Right.
I'll still, have an eye until he feels comfortable with that, which will come with experience, so. Yeah, yep, no, we'll definitely get there, is my hope. He's bright and he's jumped in and, working, through and appropriately asked questions, so far so good.
Nice.
Yeah. Let's see, obviously, I have 3 openings. I wanted to thank you for Val's flag. She really appreciated that. I know, she's not a person that likes the fanfare, so I appreciate you having Olga come down and do it in her office, because she appreciated that, and she was, she did want me to mention that, so. We've got some big, shoes to fill there, particularly with the experience, so I'm hopeful, that we'll get someone in that position to help carry the load. And then lastly, I'm gonna assume you guys are aware of the Chelan County malware attack that happened a few weeks ago.
No.
Yeah, so Chelan County was subject to a malware attack. I think it's been over a week. They're still down. Their emails, their phones. I know I just got an email saying, if you want to contact the prosecutor, contact him at this number, because all of their systems are down. So, it might be one of those ones that Shane kind of watches how they're working through that, but I've seen some news articles on top of the communications I've had with their prosecutor about how they're trying to make court work and some of the challenges with all systems down, and I think their website's still down too, so lots going on there, but something to think about, as we always talk about, computer security, and unfortunately one of our colleagues and neighbors are walking through that, so lots going on in the prosecutor's office.
Couple of quick questions there. As far as regarding the code enforcement, is there any discussion of doing that kind of on a comprehensive level besides the Tri-County Health part of it, but also including building codes and or development codes?
Yeah, so what we're kind of trying to do, because we have, each kind of department or area has kind of their own either power, like the health district, is that we're making it broader as to what the county process
Right.
is, like, here's what civil fines would look like, this is what abatement would look
Right.
like, knowing that those could continue to be adjusted on the planning side. And the health district adopts their own, but they can still use ours for the county. When we go through our processes, it looks similar every single time for us.
Uniform.
Yes, uniform, there you go.
Yeah.
For us, so then we're not trying to do all of these different methods
Right.
at the county level, so that's
Okay.
that's how we're writing it.
Okay.
To make
very
it
good.
broad enough and flexible enough that those can continue to be adjusted, because I think that's kind of where we're at with some of the challenges, because we haven't had things codified in the same way. It's like, what current regulations do we have and don't have, and where are they? Do we have everything we understand? So we're just trying to be broad enough to, because there's all these moving parts. So.
Yeah, and I know, 90% of the complaints I get about those issues are in the towns.
Yeah.
And I don't know how that's ever gonna be resolved.
Yeah, that's something for them to resolve
It is,
at their
yes,
municipal
or not.
the level. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
challenge. I mean, obviously, they have their own authority and ability to do things. I know, I think about the dog ordinance. I know in the past, it appeared that some of the smaller jurisdictions just essentially took the counties and said, we're adopting the counties to kind of follow that same process,
Right.
but they're still to some degree, responsible for the enforcement piece of it, but they essentially adopted what the counties adopted for their own use.
I did just get some feedback and complaints about some of them up there in Chippewa as far as development health things, and
Yeah.
that's ours.
Yeah.
But it's time being, I'm like, hey, well, we're working on a process. We'll
Yes.
let you know how it comes out.
Yes. Yeah, so no, like I said, continued, particularly with code enforcement, is really that conversation of also, the county, will never be able to enforce every single
Sure,
violation
sure.
or clean up every single violation because the county just doesn't have the money to do that, right?
It's to
So,
prioritize.
yeah, priority and, have that flexibility, but like, yes, we're gonna go here on this case, but we're not gonna be able to necessarily do it in this case because there just isn't, I think, enough money in the pot for the county to be responsible for everything,
Yeah.
so. It hopefully is broad enough and flexible enough to prioritize what makes sense where the county can fix things, so, but there'll be more to come for the board to review.
And the other question I have for you,
Sure.
just more of a feedback to you.
Sure.
We're ready to go forward on the transportation benefit district with the towns. If you could have your department look at MOUs for all the towns.
Okay.
And as far as I'm concerned, we're waiting on that next step.
And I've already talked to Nathan probably about 3 weeks ago. I'll follow up with him.
Okay, and if you need more information or whatever, contact me or contact Jared downstairs.
Yep.
He knows as much about what we've done so far as I do.
Okay.
And I'm assuming part of that is the resolution creating it, but also the MOUs with the towns, and I can't remember which process goes first.
Okay.
I know you've told me once, so.
Yeah, we'll make sure whether it's MOU or an interlocal agreement, we'll make sure that that's outlined for the board to understand the mechanism within that, but I'll follow up with him, because I've already given him his marching instructions probably about a month ago, so I'll kind of circle back with him on that and a road issue that we're working on, so. It's a good reminder.
And would you like me to submit my suggested language for the addressing my concerns directly to Don? Okay, good.
Or how about we give you what legally is required and then we can have that conversation? Because that would be the first part, is we're really looking at the legal framework first. And then we can see whether that fits within the legal framework. Does that make sense?
Maybe.
Okay,
So I have a comment and then
sure.
a question.
Okay.
And the comment is, I don't know where I read this quote. This is relating to code enforcement.
Okay.
And it's from like Thomas Becket from 500 years ago or something. Words without swords behind them are but empty vessels.
Yes. Yes.
Well, ultimately, the big decision will be on the three of you on how
Yes.
you want to fund
Yeah.
code enforcement. So, I mean, ultimately, we can do what we can with the resources we have. But ultimately, what I've seen in my experience, it comes down to money.
Yeah, I have,
To be really blunt.
Sure.
I have a good friend who lives in Central America. And, I often talk to him on the phone about culture, and I said, well, what's the big difference between the culture between here and there? He says, in America, we respect the rule of law. They really don't do that in Central America. No, we have really good laws, and the laws here are great, but everybody ignores them. And I just don't want to see us get to that point,
I agree.
because there's no enforcement,
Yeah, no, and
there's disrespect.
like I said, we're happy to enforce it. Just like I said, it always seems to kind of stop it when we start talking about costs.
Yeah,
And
well,
what
sure,
are
it costs
people-
money.
To clean up, because that's not the
Oh,
part
yeah,
we're
to
gonna
clean
do,
up,
right?
sure.
That's the part of who are we hiring to do
Sure.
that, so,
Yeah,
And my question.
sure.
And I hope the chair is okay with this. The last week, Brian described a parcel that the county owns that
Oh,
has
yeah.
ancient cedar trees on it, between 600 and 800 years old. And in this morning's discussion, I gave the feedback that in going around and talking to people, I just mentioned this to kind of take people's temperature on. It's the single most passionate response I've gotten to any issue. Basically, if you were to even think about selling those trees, you'd be gone in a heartbeat. So from a policy perspective, we talked about, is it prudent to bind future generations of county commissioners to say, hey, county has a policy, we don't sell anything that has, no.
No, you really should always be looking at what kind of you're not going to do that. The next group can just change it, to be frank. That's how it works. The thing is everything is pretty much case by case in my mind, because say the trees are dangerous trees and they're gonna fall, we have duties that we still are responsible for. Again, I'm not assuming that, but there are things that may change decisions based on whatever facts are before each board.
and I
Right.
think in this case, Robert, I think we need to look at surplusing that or passing it on to somebody who is in that role
Hmm.
of conservation and preservation. And, you know, divesting ourselves of and that
Okay.
takes care of it.
And there's ways that
That's what
government,
I was in my mind.
well, and there's ways that governments do that with private entities
Sure.
too, but I'm just saying that. You know, from a municipal perspective, when we talk about trees, the first thing that always comes to my mind are, do we have danger trees? Where they're danger
Right.
trees? Then we have duties to cut down and, you know, do that so we don't get sued. So it's always gonna be on a fact,
All right.
you know,
That's fair.
case by case basis.
And we've already had those conversations about the steps to go through to surplus property.
Mhm.
And,
Right.
and in this case, I think it is tax title property, so.
Okay. No, and like I said, there's ways to do that too, and there's
Right.
ways that the county can technically own tax title property, you pay for it, then
Right,
it becomes yours and,
right.
you know, and. You know, make decisions for its future, so.
Got it.
Okay. John, you have the first one.
Kind of, I
Some
mean,
speed stuff.
no, conceptually, other than the optics and and optics can be powerful things, but other than the optics, is it accurate to say anything a commissioner can do, a commissioner can undo?
I mean, for the most part, as long as it's not in violation of state law.
Right, and so.
Federal law, yes. Because again, policy, you know, depending on who's sitting in this chair, just like we see at the federal and state level, policies change based on who's sitting in these chairs. So as we experience whiplash at the state and federal level, you know, that could, you know, occur at the local level as well.
Do you say whiplash?
I mean, sometimes I feel like, okay,
No, it's only ever in one direction.
No, you know, I think about the criminal justice system over time. It's been like pendulum here and then pendulum over here. So,
Yeah, and the reason we have things in writing is to send a message from one generation to the next of what we considered our sort of constitutional, our guiding principles. So I have a different perspective on, you know, what commissioners can undo, at least in terms of the amount of political gravity that it would have to be undone to undo them later on. It's like, no. So.
No, that's a very real thing. It's a very real thing, Robert. And so when they're building in legislation and advisory votes, they're deciding on a case by case basis whether a county is automatically included in this legislation or whether there's an opt-out phase. And it is wholly different how we would decide to participate in that legislation or not, just because of that one functional change, right?
Right.
I mean, that you have to declare when it comes out, you know, sort of your intentions.
well, look at the comp
Opt in,
plan.
opt, right, exactly.
I mean, when the comp plan back in the, early 2000s, you know, at that time, this is where the county was going.
Right.
And there was a lot of inability to make changes that had stymied, you know, growth, and then it's changed over time, so.
Yeah.
Brings the pendulum, and what are you dealing with today, right?
Yeah.
Cause it could be different in about 3 years, right, or whenever,
Yeah.
all these different time frames.
The one they are, you know, having now around county revenue, of course, the 1 to 3%. Property tax increase. And, you know, there was some discussion around that, because of course, we feel like, you know, like Westman Park got essentially voted out for saying that, hey, inflation is a minimum of 3%, or cost of living a minimum of 3% over time, averages out 3% per year, and we're allowed to collect 1% more than we were last year. We're falling behind. Is like saying I'm going to raise your taxes, and you know, and not popular, right? Even though what you're talking about is math, basically. And so it's a very prominent piece of the conversation in that legislation. Tacoma or Vancouver might absolutely say, no, we're taking the 3%. We need the dollars now. Don't even care. Where a county like ours, where it's worth $22,000. You know, please give us the opportunity to opt out, because, you know, it costs you your job for 22 grand. Anyway, interesting to me.
No,
No, you're spot on.
one size fits all, right? There's no one size that fits all in most instances.
Yeah, that's news to my governor.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, if I.
Yes, you may.
3 short things. Tristan found out about our job opening on Indeed.
Oh,
And Dolly, did you need me to set another meeting for the purchasing policy?
Not at this point. We'll have some more conversations and whether it's helpful or productive to have kind of a smaller group.
Okay. And then, Mr. Chair, we've been requested Dolly work on a contract for economic development for 3 years.
Oh, yes. Yes, I was assuming you communicated that, or, yeah, no, okay.
So should I assume that the term and I would guess the amount?
Yes,
Is that the?
same as it was in the term of 3 years.
Okay, but everything else is fine?
Yes,
Okay. All right, then I can definitely do that.
yes, thank you very much. Okay, anything else, Dolly?
Not for me at this
All
moment.
right, well, thank you for coming and seeing us.
Thank you.
Take care, you guys.
Trial schedule, we don't know what your she's gonna be.
Yeah.
Right,
Right.
box.
Well, I mean, yeah, if we go, it'll be through Thursday. I mean, it'll be a 3 or 4 day trial, so I would definitely not be available at this point. I won't know until the Thursday before.
Okay.
So that's what you're saying, and then I have a better idea of what's good.
Would you be interested in meeting one of the sections that June? You know, they might have to.
I gotta move further here, since Chelan for training.
Okay.
What's the date?
June 30th, Tuesday.
Yeah, let me check.
Okay.
Let me just double check.
Okay.
Yeah, let me check my
I
schedule.
know that she's pulling her hair out, got that.
Well,
The website is not working.
well, I thought, oh, that's really good, I could fix that, and then because I had thought about it after I'd seen the article, and then I was like, oh, they're still going.
No website, yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna want to do that. How are you? Well, I mean, I guess, I don't know, Facebook.
Being, you know,
That we should
what
have
they
that
are
one. That
referred to, I love the phrase, they're referred to as the pig in the python.
Right?
You heard that expression? No.
Yeah, but again, I think it's one of those things that might.
The
be-
pig in the python, basically, you're right, he's not gonna be hungry until this pig has passed through, but it's, you know, I mean. That everything's stopped up behind it or open up behind it, and this article specifically was about, they're not shedding the larger homes.
Right.
Because the boomers have 3 and 4 bedroom homes, and even though they're down to 2 people, they're still keeping the big homes. And so there isn't that, you know, natural progression for the kids, you know, to pick up family homes. And I think part of that is called, I love the expression, once the thing's out.
You know, in my career, and I was just talking to somebody about this, I'll go up and work on this house and up a pretty select. And you'll look for 2 miles along the place, and then wait, everyone goes out. And
Sure.
He'll drive along, no cars. They're all.
Yeah.
Really.
That's, I think for the most part.
You know, and it's like,
I mean, I think I'd see.
you know, I'd love to see some statistics, do we actually have enough homes around this and that? People can only live in one spot at a time, you know?
And then, yeah, talking about government writing, making the rulemaking around that.
That's, yeah, for them, that's their business.
Yeah, I'll-
You know. Is, yeah, you hate to see it, but that's their business.
Commissioners are.
Same thing about food, you know, they say there's enough food in the world to feed everybody, it's just a problem with distribution.
Right. So, once you brought it back, I was like, oh, so I thought, well, listen.
Thank you, Doc. We'll see what they do.
All right, Madam Clerk, what do we got next?
In your blue folder is a head sheet for action,
All right.
and that is the tab letter I composed. Carol had reached out to me and said, since they have a new org chart, she felt it would be prudent to reach out to Crab with that, so
Yeah.
that is ready. Oh, let me find it. Hold on, let me find that, because did I cut that by accident? Oh. I got postponing it today. I kept moving things around and I might have cut it without pasting it, so I'm prepared for the motion and I'll just paste it in. Yeah. Yeah.
No. Oh, I thought we were waiting for you to track that down. We were waiting for you. Yeah, I move that we sign and send a letter to Jane Wall at Washington State County Road Administration Board notifying her of the updated Public Works org chart.
Second.
Motion is second. Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Go ahead.
Was there discussion?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
is this a precedent we want to set?
What's that?
We don't,
I will explain why it.
she wants to see it, but why is it coming through the board as an official action kind of thing?
So anything to CRAB regarding your engineer or the org chart has went through the commissioners in the past. And that last correspondence we sent had the tentative org chart, which Carol wanted to definitely now send to CRAB that shows she does not have oversight of buildings and grounds.
Yeah.
So
For my part, my preference would very strongly be that this is less formal. That she sends the new org chart to Jane and has that rapport and basically a direct relationship. I had this conversation with Commissioner Swanwick, who's on the crap board. He did say that guy was disciplined, the engineer in there. He said there was definitely some fallout there.
I believe it.
Yeah, right, and that,
You want me just to adjust it and initial it?
kind of called this unnecessary. I mean, I just flat said that I resented it, that it cost me two great employees, or, I mean, pedigreed employees. Hard to find employees, let's say that. And he said, no, I don't think that's the purpose of it. There are counties that are getting it wrong, that are getting it all the way wrong, and they pull what levers they can. As crap, they pull what levers they can, which is to say, we would choose, you would score lower in your apps, or we would choose not to give you dollars or whatever else if you refuse to be in compliance. And so it is simply that Carol could say, does this meet compliance? She'd say, thumbs up, have a nice day. In my estimation, I really am struggling with the idea that I wouldn't get to decide between Public Works Director and County Engineer versus Public Works Director / County Engineer. If my talent pool was really shallow and I didn't have any darn choice. I mean, if you're picking up what I'm putting down.
Yes.
And I feel like Crab was game for that. I don't know that they were inherently, now I might be splitting hairs. Could be this is just another way to skin the cat.
I think it is.
Okay.
I do. I don't think this is setting any precedent.
If commissioners 7 years from when we're out of here, go back and look. It looks a good bit more official that Brian and John and Robert said this. This
Right.
is the org chart. And it feels more official than the stance I'm taking on. Stance I'm taking on it is you be as flexible as you need to be, including if I have to ask Grab for a variance.
I think from talking to Carol, she wants Crab to know the commissioners have blessed this.
Yeah.
And that the commissioners and herself, it's been a collaborative, cooperative process to get to this point.
Yeah.
For both sides of the argument. You know, that, listen, you have a problem with this, you have a problem with commissioners. And, you know, I think that's where we're at.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that helps your thinking or not, but.
Well, I don't wanna throw a wrench in the works by having a third initials missing from it. I mean, I don't know that that gets us there inherently. It's absolutely still my preference for the
Right,
other.
okay.
Um,
Yeah, I'd have to talk to her some more about it. And, you know, that's what I know.
Should we table it?
can you, punt it. Can you ask her how she feels about sending it up informally and getting, Jane's informal blessing?
We could probably call her right now. Is she available?
Sure, we'll have to wait tomorrow. I think we'll leave it.
Sure, we can table it all in too.
Right, yeah.
You guys. What are your thoughts, Jim?
That would be my preference, if they could just handle it by email, hey, this is what the commissioner, I spoke with the commissioners, the four of us said, this is the structure we're using, is this adequate? And Jane says, yeah, that looks great, then we don't have to make it look like, this rigid org chart structure. We've done a lot of research and this is the only way to run public works. I just don't want anybody to get that impression moving.
It is required by WAC when you appoint an engineer, that you're also sending down
Yes.
the public works org chart at that time.
Right.
It is a requirement of
And-
WAC.
Right, we are sending them the org chart.
Okay,
Our county engineer and public works director is sending the org chart to Crowd. That's the part that's required.
that might be accurate.
Would you like to move to table your motion?
Please.
Second.
Okay, motion is tabled then.
I'm taking a vote.
All those in favor?
Of tabling the motion, aye.
And John, I'm gonna let you, rather than muddy the waters tomorrow, characterize
Sure.
your feelings
Sure.
about this, okay?
Yeah, no, that's
I
great.
think you-
And I'm not, beyond this pass, I'm not gonna be a stick in the mud over it. I understand, I would much prefer.
And I'm with you there, but I'd like to have more information on it, of how much of this is SOP.
Yeah.
And how much of it is the ratchet turning, okay? And getting us in a pattern that we don't wanna be in.
Right.
Okay? I don't think there's a high priority on it, so we'll have that conversation.
And frankly, I felt like the interim org chart was satisfactory, indicated that everything was going through the PD that had to do with roads.
There was, what I heard was some concern that we dilute the position of county engineer too much. And that, or we spread it too, that person too thin, and there's too many things on their job description.
And I'm sorry, that is what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
And that is
I know.
well outside of their area of concern.
I know exactly what you're talking about, because you're saying none of your business.
None of your business. We
Yeah.
will sort it out and have,
Yeah,
but you
you-
don't get to say.
You're saying, hey, this is a small county, we gotta put a lot of hats on this guy.
It might take me 18 months. Now, it took me 18 days,
Well, I get it, Tom, I
but,
get it.
no, see that, it's.
Yeah.
A couple things. When Dolly said that Olga had presented the flag,
Mhm.
I was scheduled at 11 o'clock Friday to take that flag certificate over to Valerie before they had their lunch. And that's when I was in the back room. We also Olga did get permission to post the photos, so I'm gonna be doing that on Facebook, that follows our flag policy. But regarding the retired flag, did you see in your blue folder, Sarah Kramer from Yes called me. I think it was a call, not an email, and told it was a phone call, that Jackie Keene was retiring after 30 years. She'd really like to do something for her. Does the county do anything for our people that have had long-term service?
41 years.
41 years?
That's what it said.
So. Like policy says. Volunteers or anyone outside of staff may possibly be qualified for flag. But it would have to be done by MOU by the commissioners.
Mhm.
So are you interested in doing that?
I am.
Yeah, sure.
That MAY was specifically written for people like Jackie Keane.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it's supposed to capture.
So. Because of Dolly's schedule, I don't know if this is gonna be able to be rushed through or not, but I've already scheduled next Monday begins our week of service on Monday. And at 10:30, I scheduled the 3 different agencies that were collecting food or money for Family Crisis Network to come in at 10:30. So we're gonna present each of those groups with their boxes and get a good photo. And so I did tell Sarah that perhaps we could also present the flag at that time.
Okay.
I mean, it would make sense. Her staff is gonna be contacted Ben, and there is a flag available that's flown in the county. There were 2 flown in the county that weren't recorded before we started this process. So I hope that would be a appropriate one. So I can try and get an MOU to Dolly. And have you guys sign it Monday?
See what happens.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can ask forgiveness instead of permission.
Right, it's not like you're setting a policy or
Right.
something like that.
I mean, that she gets a flag and then we cross the T's and dot the I's along the way, right? We already know what the answer is.
This one is not crucial.
No,
That
right.
in advance. Okay. So would you initial that, form, please?
This one, the table.
No,
Yeah.
the flag
Oh, the flag.
should be right. So another topic that has came up that might be commissioner discussion. Olga said upstairs refrigerator, which is in the break room between the treasurer's office and the assessor's office, full-size refrigerator. It needs replaced apparently. And so they were inquiring if the county would purchase that. And I knew past practice, but I confirmed with Mary Ann last week. So each department is typically responsible for their own fights. It's like when that microwave went out, I replaced it. Sometimes you take donations from your department. But they are, so Olga replied, this is what Crystal said. If your combined departments can't afford it or don't agree with that, we'd have to submit a head sheet to the commissioners to purchase a new refrigerator. You might be hearing about that.
Okay.
It's a real issue.
No doubt.
The refrigerators were purchased with commissioner money.
Right.
Everything here, okay?
Right.
I emailed you last week, maybe it was Friday night, the road standards.
Yeah.
Carol, do you need those printed out in addition?
I don't, I just need to look them over again.
Next, 2 weeks, if you do that. Wednesday, I'm not sure if it's this week or next week, let me look real quick. There's the Kalispell Tribe of Indians meeting, that is this week, Wednesday. The 9 o'clock partnership coordination meeting with Public Works.
That's
And
this
you-
Wednesday.
You guys were going
If you go to that,
Sure. Is it at Julia's office?
tribal council room.
second time in a row, I can't be there.
Do you know how long they go? Because,
This is scheduled from 9 to 10:30.
okay. I'm meeting Jim Nelson here at 11 a.m. I believe from Kentucky.
Oh, Jim Nelson.
Yes.
Kentucky Bible College.
Okay, I might tell him 11:15 then.
Okay. So would you accept that on your calendar too? So that they know that
Yes.
there's a RSVP involved? Did you get a phone call from this gentleman on Friday?
I didn't know.
Actually, not you. I apologize. This one's for John. John, did you get a phone call from a gentleman and talk to Olga? She wrote down. She provided your business card, but also took down his name. Okay, I can ask her what the topic was.
That's a good one.
Do you have extra business cards behind you somewhere? And then you might have seen in the newspaper my ad about our legal service and in the nonprofits or service organizations that abuse health. Well, a gentleman called me and left a message on the voicemail. And he's just a resident. But he is in, seems like dire need, he's in a wheelchair now. Needs some paint work done on trim. He has the paint. I just wondered what we might be able to do with this one.
You mean line up somebody to help him, like rural resources or somebody else?
Eagle Point Lane, I'm not aware where that's at.
I know what it says. Yeah. Rather than just, we meant entities or
Right.
organizations, but can we help you?
And I didn't want to put the county in liability
Exactly.
of an employee going to a private person's house.
Yes, exactly. I have a feeling that it'll be a no, can we help you? But that doesn't mean we have to tell you, see, how can we get the yes to it?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, maybe tomorrow after the Terrence Robbins discussion, I can give an update on America 250
Okay.
and the week of service and then also the program here.
Okay.
Because I'll have some visuals to show you.
All righty, anything else, Crystal?
No, that's it.
Gentlemen?
Crystal, do I have the invitation to the council meeting?
Yes, Wednesday, 9 AM.
No, I mean, did you send me the? Is there anything I need to reply to online to accept the invitation?
Just go into your calendar and accept that, because then Julia will see that there is an attendee.
There it is. Okay. Thank you. Got it. I have nothing else.
Don, good, all right, let's recess till tomorrow then.
Thanks for joining us. This recess for the day.